In Java, to output data, we can use System.out. System.out is a static field that is part of the system class. System is a class and out is the static field of the system class and an instance of the PrintStream class that we will later see in this video. Because out is static, we can access it directly with the System.out without needing to create an instance of the system class. Also, since it's an instance of the PrintStream class, we can access printing methods like println, print, and printf. First, we have the println method. When we add it to System.out, it allows us to print a specific text and then moves the cursor to the line below, giving us another line to show or type. With the print method, we can again print specific text on the console, but the cursor does not move to the line below. It outputs everything on the same line. Finally, the printf method, which works similar to the printf function in C. To learn more about it, check out our video on inputs and outputs in C and solve the exercises available in the description. In Java, the printf method requires a formal specifier of the variable type and the name of the variable. Let's do an example using System.out with the println, print, and printf methods. In this example, we're going to print the name of a person, age, and city. So I'm going to start with System.out.println and I'm going to type your name is James. And when printing this should set the cursor on the line below. Next, I'm going to use System.out.printf and I'm going to type your age. But before we can use printf, I'm going to need a variable to store the age. So I'm going to do a variable of type int called age. And I'm going to initialize it to 43. Now I'm going to use the formal specifier for an int, which is %d, and your age is 43 years old. And since printf doesn't set the cursor on the line below like println, I'm going to use %n, and this will automatically set the cursor on the line below for the next output. Next, we're going to use System.out.print, and we're going to print you live in. I'm going to leave a space, and in the same line, we're going to print Dallas, just using a different print statement. And here, I forgot to put the argument, which is age. So we're going to run. And here's our output. PrintStream is a class that is part of the java.io package, and as we saw before, it provides methods to print formatted data. System.out holds a reference to an instance of the PrintStream class, so it is pre-configured to output data on the console. When we use System.out, we are interacting with a pre-configured object that outputs data. With PrintStream, we can also create our own object to execute output operations. Using System.out is sufficient for most of what we print on the console, but we can use PrintStream directly for certain situations, like redirecting outputs to other output streams like files, manage multiple output streams, which we'll do in another video, and control output behavior, like customizing how errors are printed, adding headers, and timestamps. To do this, we have to import the package java.io. Now, let's do another example, but this time with PrintStream. So first, we're going to import the package java.io. At the top of our program, I'm going to import java.io. Then inside our main, I'm going to create a variable of type stream. So PrintStream. Name of our variable, text output. I'm going to set that equal to a new print stream, and I'm going to name the file output.txt. This is going to associate the object text output with the file name output.txt so that text output can perform output operations. Next, using the system class, we have to change the default output stream, which is the terminal or the console, to our text file. We do this by using the static method system.setOut. And inside I'm going to put our variable text output. Now we're going to type the message that we're going to output to the file. So system.out.println. And I'm going to go with the classic hello world. Then I'm going to close our file. So text output.close. Now I'll put this code inside an exception that will prevent our code from crashing. The file can't be created or it doesn't exist. We do this by telling Java to do this or try. And in case it can't, we want it to catch the checked expression file not found exception. And I'm going to add E, which is the checked expression object that contains details about the error for debugging. And the purpose of this exception is to tell the program that we might expect a problem. If we find a problem, I'm going to tell it to print the stack trace to get details about the error. So now we're going to run. And here's our text file. Now, what about inputs? An input is data received from the user or other external sources. In Java, we deal with inputs with the scanner class. To do this, we create an instance of the scanner class that will read the input with the System.in, which is similar to the System.out but for the opposite purpose. To use scanner, we will have to import the package java.util. When using scanner, we can also use certain methods that will allow us to read different data types, like nextLine, which reads an entire line of inputs, next reads a single input, nextInt reads integer inputs, next double reads decimal inputs, next boolean reads boolean inputs, next short reads short inputs, and next byte reads byte inputs. Finally, when using scanner, always remember to close scanner. That way the memory is clear and we prevent any memory leaks. In this example, we're going to use the scanner class to get inputs from the user. To start, I'm going to import java.util.scanner. We're going to start by creating a new instance of the scanner class. In this variable, I'm going to call it scanner, and it will allow us to store the input. Then we use the keyword new to create a new instance of a class and use system.in, which will be able to read the data inputted. I'm going to put a semicolon here. Alright, then I'm going to provide a prompt for the user with system.out.println, and I'm going to ask the user to enter their age. So enter your age. I'm then going to create a variable of type int called age, and with a scanner object and the nextInt method, we're going to read the input. Then I'm just going to print the age with system.out.println with the message your age is and the age. Then I'm going to close scanner to avoid any errors. I'm going to run. Enter my age, 34, and your age is 34. In this example, we're tasked with asking the user to input their name, age, and city. We're going to save this information in variables and print the formatted information to a file. We're going to need to use the PrintStream class directly so we can redirect the output information to our file in the scanner class to deal with the user input. So I'm going to import the packages java.util.scanner and java.io. I'm then going to create a new instance of the scanner class, which I will name scanner, and use system.in, which is the constructor of the scanner class that specifies the input source. Now we're going to ask the user for the information using system.out.println so that the input can be inputted in the same line as the prompt. And I'm going to say enter your name. Then I'm going to save this name in a variable of type string that will be called name. And remember that string in Java is a reference type, which means that they store the address of the objects in memory. And I will read the input with our scanner object. And since the name can include the last name, I will use the nextLine method. Next we have the age. So prompt the user again with system.out.print. And I will say enter your age. We will read this data by storing the age in a variable of type int. And I'm going to name the variable age. And to read it, we'll use the scanner object with the nextInt method. One thing to note about the int data type is that it is a primitive data type, which means it stores the actual value. Finally, I'm going to ask the user for the city. So system.out.print, and I will say something like enter your city. Enter your city. And again, we're going to create a variable of type string. We're going to call it city, and we're going to read it with our scanner object and the next line method. Now that we have the user's information, we'll output this information to a file, and as we saw before, we need an exception to this, so try. And inside we'll create a variable of type PrintStream, and I will call this variable info output. And I will set this equal to a new PrintStream and the name of a file which I will call output.txt. And this goes inside double quotes. And what this does is that it associates the object info output with the file output.txt so that info output can perform output operations. Next we have to use the system class to change the default output stream, which is the terminal, to our text file. We do this by using the static method system.setOutput, and inside I will put a variable info output, and it's 1s and m. Now we can output the user information, so system.out.println, and I'm going to format the information, so name, make it look pretty, and add the variable name, which is name. System.out .println age and system.out .println and city. Finally, we have to close our file, so info output dot close, and I forgot the E. Now, if the file can't be created or it doesn't exist, we'll have to catch the checked exception. So catch, our exception is file not found exception, which is here. And I'm going to add the E, which is the exception object that contains details about the error for debugging. And finally, I will print the stack trace. Now all we have to do is to close our scanner to avoid any error. So scanner.close. And I will move this to the started code. And looks like we misspelled string here. So I'm going to type that real quick. And that should get rid of the error. Alright, so we're going to run. We're going to enter our name. So Daniel Smith. Our age is 34. And oof, looks like we didn't get to enter our city. Now the reason for why we can't input our city is because of how the nextInt method operates in the scanner class. And so basically after we called nextInt for the age input, here it reads the integer value, but it doesn't consume that new line character after we press enter. This causes the next line method here to immediately consume the leftover new line, so it doesn't allow us to input the city. And the best way to fix this is to ask for the city name first before we ask for the age. Now we could potentially also, instead of doing this, is to just add a scanner next line to take care of that enter, to take care of that new line, but we'll do it this way. And instead of doing that, there's another solution where we could just add a next line and that will consume that new line character, but we'll do it this way. So we're gonna clear, kill, and then run again. And we'll put our name, Daniel Smith, city, Los Angeles, and our age, 34. Now we'll go and check our file, and here's our information. There will be practice problems in the description below for you to try. And as always, if you like this video, click like, subscribe. We'll see you later.